Submitted for the approval of the YouTube Society, here are my thoughts on the first 2 episodes of the original run of Are You Afraid of the Dark? I'll just get right into it. The first episode is The Tale of the Phantom Cab, and it's a nice introductory sort of thing because they are initiating a new member, or they're testing a new member of the Midnight Society, and it kind of starts with the leader. I haven't gotten all their names perfectly, although I can bring it up. But starts with their leader kind of talking about the Midnight Society, what they do, for the benefit of the audience as well as, I suppose, the new member. The new member's name is Frank, I think. Yes, Frank. And but Frank is introduced blindfolded because they didn't want him to know where in the woods the kids get together and light the fire and tell creepy stories. So he comes in and he is asked to tell a story. I forget. I think that someone throws the dust on the fire and makes it flare for him because he is blindfolded. But that is, of course, how they always start their stories. And it's called The Tale of the Phantom Cab. So it's a story about 2 brothers. They are hiking in the woods. It is a typical older brother, younger brother relationship. The younger brother wants the approval of the older brother, but can't stop messing up because they're doing what the older brother does, not what the younger brother does. The younger brother, I guess, is a more bookish, intellectual type, and the older brother is big, brawny, sports, hiking, and yet they both get lost, so maybe he's not so talented. And they get lost in the woods, of course, and part of the reason they get lost is that they're using a compass to get around, and compasses are, of course, little magnets, and the younger brother, was holding the compass down near his belt buckle, and it was pulling the magnet. I don't know that is necessarily how that would work, but that was the moment where I knew that I'd seen the episode because I recognized that beat, and I recognized it as, oh, that's when I learned about magnets and belt buckles or something like that. That was a revelation for me. But there was a moment before that where the older brother saves the younger brother who's just stepped off a cliff because he's looking at the compass and not where he's going, and the bigger brother saves him and he says, I should have let you fall. So they are going through the woods, and then they see a stranger with a flashlight. They think it's a ranger. It is not. It's a guy called Flynn, and he says he can take them to Dr. Vink, who can help them get out of the woods. And so he takes them to this kind of fairy tale cottage, and where they can see a strange glow coming from the inside, and strange sounds, like noises in the bushes around them, and they go knock on the door, and Dr. Vink, who looks a bit like Hagrid from the Harry Potter movies. Oh, I wrote down atmospheric noises. The creepiest thing that was consistently creepy about Are You Afraid of the Dark for me was the atmospheric noises at the time. I don't know why, but I heard them and I wrote that down and thought that's what it was for me. That was one of the things. And as I go through episodes, I'll cite specific things, but even in the opening credits, the low music over the creaking chairs and stuff, that was really set the stage, really got to me. So Dr. Vink likes to experiment with brains. He shows them the brain of a wild boar. And he says that if you can answer riddles, then get a free pass through the woods. If you can't, then he just lets them leave. That is the offer. We find out that that's not all there is to it, but it makes them say, okay, well, we'll do it. And the first riddle the younger brother gets, let me see if I can remember what it was. It was, I think it was, how far can you go into the woods? And there are a couple of answers to that one. The malevolent supernatural force I live with said a step, because once you stepped into the woods, every other step you're headed out of the woods. And the answer in the episode is halfway. But the other riddle, so that was the getting their appetite for answering riddles, and the younger brother's answering the riddles. The older brother doesn't even try. The next riddle, the tough one, is what is completely weightless? What is completely weightless, visible to the naked eye, and if you put it in a barrel, it makes the barrel lighter? And the answer to that riddle will be in a future video here on my YouTube channel. So subscribe to it and click on the notifications bell and like this video. And maybe you will hear the answer to that riddle if you're really very interested. Once again, it is weightless, visible to the naked eye, and if you put it in a barrel, it makes the barrel lighter. What is it? And the answer, I'm not going to tell you yet. It's not fun that way. But, of course, the kids eventually get it. They just don't get it in the cabin. But they are allowed to leave the cabin, and they meet Flynn again. And it turns out he's a cab driver, and his cab is in the woods, conveniently. And so if you're not thinking something's up, you might be thinking, why didn't he just, if he had his cab, why did he take him to the doctor? Why didn't he just leave? Well, it turns out he was one of the first victims of Vink, and after he left, having been unable to get the riddle, his car went out of control, and he crashed into a tree. And as he puts it, when he turns his head, which is paler now, turns his head completely around so that he can look at the kids in the back seat, and he says, "I sort of died," and says it more interestingly than I just did. I'm not going to yell it at the computer, but that was the other moment where I thought, oh yes, I'm familiar with this episode, because I remember that's like a single image that's seared in my brain from having probably scared me significantly when I was a little kid. And the way he says, "I sort of died," he's got kind of a Beetlejuice vibe for the second half of the episode. And he explains the whole thing where he finds people lost in the woods. He takes them to Dr. Vink, and when they can't answer Vink's thing, they get in his cab, and he has the same crash over and over again, killing countless people, and nobody can escape. That's the sounds that they were hearing in the bushes outside of the cottage. They were hearing those people. And no one can escape until someone solves the riddle, which, of course, the little brother ultimately does, because the episode is about him proving his worth to his older brother. And, of course, that is a great spooky story. And Frank is accepted into the Midnight Society. So good for Frank. And then just one more little detail. The kids try to take the authorities back to that cottage because the guy was stealing people's brains and cutting up animals and killing people, but the cottage has vanished. So really, really strong first episode. And I will go right into the next episode, I guess, because this is going so well. The Tale of Laughing in the Dark. And this was interesting because the episode starts in the story, and it's a little weird for the first 5 minutes because apparently this was allowed to happen. Like, they knew it hadn't been given a proper start because about like a couple minutes in, suddenly they're outside of the story and back around the campfire, and they haven't even thrown the dust on the fire yet. So I guess the storyteller, let's see, I can find that information. The storyteller, Betty Ann, was too excited, and she just started going. But the reason we leave the story is because another character, Kristen, I believe is the name, just stands up and says, "No, I can't leave. This is a clown story. I can't listen to a clown story." And now, if these episodes aired in 1992, they were probably filmed in early 92 or 1991. And, well, let's see, what day in 1992? August 1992. So probably filmed earlier in 1992. But the point is, the early 90s, also when the first adaptation of Stephen King's It with Tim Curry and Annette O'Toole first was made and was released. I think that was 1990 because the book came out, I think, in 1985. And so I don't know that it was the thing that started the killer killer creepy clown thing, but clearly this was in the zeitgeist at the time, and so it makes sense that an early Are You Afraid of the Dark episode would be about creepy killer clowns, but I don't know the history of creepy killer clowns prior to it, although there must have been something to it, because otherwise, where would Stephen King have gotten the idea? On the other hand, have you ever seen a clown? So, she freaks out that it's a clown story, which is very amusing for me with so much time between now and then, because there have been so many creepy clown things, including more adaptations of it. But so that was fun, and then she is shamed into staying, called the coward or whatever, and then the leader, I think his name is Billy. I haven't. Let me just look and see if it's clear in the cast list. Are You Afraid of the Dark? Cast members: Gary. I think that Gary is the main one. Let's see. He's the leader. Okay, Gary is the leader of the Midnight Society in Are You Afraid of the Dark? And now I'm going to get back to the episode details if I can. There we go. Okay, so Gary hands her the bag and she throws the dust, and it begins the story. So, Laughing in the Dark is the name of a spook house or haunted house, kind of a fun house, haunted house spliced together, and it starts with a couple of kids standing out in front of it and an otherwise seemingly abandoned carnival, and daring each other to go in. One of them is very cocky and but still seems reluctant to go in, but they say go in, and he eventually does, but he says, I'll go in, but in order to prove I've gone in, I'm going to steal the nose from the clown. Zebo, I think, is the clown's name. There's a fake clown, that's why everyone's freaked out about going in, although there are there's a Dracula-looking thing, a Frankenstein monster thing, and a headless guy who's holding his head and shakes his head in the faces of people who walk by. All machines, animatronics, but still. But the clown is what gets him, because the clown is in a room where you're trying to get into the doors, you're trying to find the door that leads out, and if you get the wrong one, then you get the clown. He says he's going to go in, he's going to steal the clown's nose. I don't know how he knows that it's a nose that can just come off. It's one of those kind of squishy ones, foam ones. And he says, and then he's going to make the other kid. What's the other boy's name? The one is Josh. He's the cocky one. Ouija is the other boy, and something like Ouija, and then Cassie is Ouija's little sister. So he goes in, he goes all through, he's cocky, he walks past Frankenstein's monster and Dracula and all that, and he gets to the room with all the doors, and he says, and he opens the one with the clown, and initially he is reluctant, but eventually he reaches up, he grabs the nose of the clown. Oh, there's an early Funhouse, like explicitly Funhouse scene where he's looking at a mirror where it's a warped image of himself, and it turns into the clown, and then speaks to him, and he just says, "Oh well, it's just a thing, just a trick or whatever," and he goes and he steals the nose from the clown, and he gives it to Ouija to wear. But then, of course, weird things start to happen. First, they are in, I think, Ouija and Cassie's house, and Ouija has done some, I'm going to say library research, because I doubt it was internet research in 1992, but he's found out that the clown in the spook house is based on an actual clown who came to town in a circus, and then he stole the box office from the circus, stole all the money, and he was trying to run away. He ran into the spook house that was there, part of another, like there's a circus and there was the carnival, and he ran into the house that was there, and then because he was big on cigars, he burned the house down. It caught fire from an ash from his cigar, and it burned down, and he died. And then when it was rebuilt, he was incorporated into the design, which is a really horrible thing to do. Somebody died here in this thing that's supposed to be fun, so we are going to incorporate, because it was a clown, we're going to incorporate a clown into it. I don't think there was originally a clown in the thing, but it's just it's in very bad taste. There's also a dragon, but the dragon, actually blows real fire out of what would seem to be a flamethrower-esque or Bunsen burner at least type of thing. There's a great Bunsen burner episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark that I cannot wait to get to. But anyway, the dragon is a fire hazard in this thing, which you'd think if it was rebuilt from the one that burnt down, they wouldn't have a fire hazard in it, but they do. So yes, so that's what happens there. There's a dragon. Oh, Josh goes into the spook house after learning about the real clown, so I got that out of order. And then the smell of cigar smoke starts to follow him around, and he goes home, and his parents have gone out to the theater. Didn't have a ticket for him apparently. I guess it was date night. Parents have to do that. And so they say there's pudding and spaghetti, I think was the meal, in the fridge. Get those out. He puts the spaghetti in the microwave. Then there's something in the pudding. Or no, he drops the pudding because something spooks him. And so then he starts wandering around the house. I think he grabs a bat to hit whatever he can find. But there's nobody around the house. So he goes back, finds the spaghetti in the microwave burning, takes it out. It's a bunch of cigars, which is kind of gross, but also, I guess, goes with the anti-smoking theme of the episode. And it creeps him out. And then he looks down and he sees a clown's shoe footprint with a Z in it, kind of like Zorro, but a clown shoe, in the pudding that he spilled earlier. And so he freaks out and runs back to the, or he doesn't run back yet. He calls Ouija to say, yeah, you're playing a prank on me because I'm making you wear the clown nose. Look, you only have to wear the clown nose for a day. Maybe you don't have to wear it at all. And then Ouija, of course, says, I'm not playing a prank on you. And then the creepy clown's voice, he gets another phone call from, let's see, gets another, no, he gets a phone call before he finds the cigars in the microwave. I should have taken better notes, or maybe I did, I should read them better. So while he's going around the house with the weapon trying to defend himself, he gets a phone call that just says, give it back. And I love a creepy phone call in a creepy movie or TV show. And they give it back in a creepy voice. Then he sees the Z footprint and the cigars in the microwave. And then he tells Ouija to stop, and Ouija says, but I'm not doing it. Or somebody says somebody's on the other line at Ouija's house doing the voice, and Ouija says we only have one phone line, but Josh has two phone lines in his house, and so obviously the call is coming from inside the house. So this is and then one more clown thing is a balloon inflates under a closed door from under his I think it's his bedroom door, and he sees the kind of footprints under the door. And then a purple balloon that says, give it back, inflates and floats up, and then pops in his face. And so he gets the message. He returns to the ride. He just goes all the way through it. And then he opens the door that the clown is supposed to be there. And the clown is not there, but flashing lights, which again seems to be another reference to it, because when it is there, but it's not in clown form or any other form, I think it's referred to as the dead lights. So just bright lights that are, I don't know, I don't understand the metaphysics of the actual creature that is it, but don't look in the dead lights is a refrain in the story. He gives the nose back, and also a box of cigars, because he knows Zeebo the Clown loves cigars. And what did I write here? Okay, so that I know what that means. Okay, so that is the end of the story. And Kristen manages to sit through it, although there is a break, another out of the story. I wonder if the out of the story happens every so often in these things, or in every episode, because it happened in the other one, because they said you can't put an unanswerable riddle in the story, and he said, well, wait and see, and it'll be answered. So I think that's the same thing that's happening here, and I'm almost at 20 minutes, so I'm going to wrap it up. They exit the story, And then Kristen has sat through the story. She's very proud of herself, but then another member of the Midnight Society who's been hiding her face reveals that she's wearing a clown mask, sitting right next to Kristen, who bolts, and then they all get up and leave. So that's that episode. And there's also a Carney character played by Aaron Tager, I think is how to pronounce that, who also played Dr. Vink, and I think he does the voice of Zebo, and he appears as a photograph of the clown that died in the fire, and I think that is also him. And I think he's also in several other episodes, just scrolling through, but it gets to one of the things that I loved about this, which was same actors playing different characters, or sometimes the same character in different episodes for different stories, which means the kids are using each other's characters in the stories, and I just love a good anthology series, or I guess this is more of a repertory thing, where, again, a lot of the same actors, same Midnight Society getting together, and a lot of the same actors getting into different roles, kind of like with Wishbone. Same actors played different roles in different stories out inside of the framing device. So I'm looking forward to this. I've started it early. I was going to try to stuff all these episodes. I think I've said this already in a different video. I'm going to try to stuff all the episodes into the month of October. This is much more leisurely, and I prefer it this way. And it'll cover me from now until, I think, mid-December. So really looking forward to this. There are episodes that I love more than others. This one, I don't know that I actually saw this one went back when it aired or in reruns back then, but I think the clown is just something that they used in their advertising as the Are You Afraid of the Dark commercials, or maybe a later version of the theme song. But anyway, I will have to come up with another outro for this, because submitted for the approval of the Midnight Society is more of a beginning thing. But then again, so was Seatbelts, everyone. But I'll try to come up with one. I have none now, and maybe I'll just say bye. Thanks for watching.